Hello and welcome to the first module of our course WFED 8990. I'm going to kind of go over the content of the first module, much of which we'll talk about in person when we meet on November the 11th. But I wanted to give you kind of a video overview. The first thing in the module is the reading, the assigned reading, which is the first chapter of the Criswell textbook. If you don't have a copy of that yet, you should have it. Here is I'll get this centered in just a minute. This is the textbook. And I find this textbook pretty easy to read. There's got a lot of content in it, but it's really practical. And so a lot of writing about qualitative research is really kind of complicated and unnecessarily big words and that kind of thing. And I think John Criswell does a pretty good job of writing in English here. So anyway, read chapter 1. That's the first thing we're going to be talking about in this module. Then we're going to have kind of an operational definition of qualitative research, and I'm going to show you a couple of definitions. And then we'll also look at Criswell's definition, which is also included in the first chapter of the book. Then I'm going to talk about your assignments. The first assignment is I want you to go have a little sit down with your advisor before we get too far into the course, and I'd like you to do that in the first 2 weeks or so. And then I'm going to ask you to take some field notes, and I'll go over this in a little bit more detail when we meet on January the 11th. But I'd like you to take a few moments to write up some field notes and then share them with me. You're going to see as we get into this assignment that we've created for the semester, you're going to need to have a topic for a research project, and so a lot of that can be resolved with a visit with your advisor. And if that doesn't work, then you and I'll work up something of your interest and get it into researchable shape. So that being the kind of the first research, the first assignment. The second is a quick video on the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is usually a logical foundation for qualitative research. Deductive reasoning, being a detective, is often associated with quantitative research, where you really have a hypothesis and you're testing it and you're looking for evidence to support it. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, and then there's a video resource on the nature of social research, and I think you'll kind of enjoy seeing that. I've weaved in a little bit of levity about thinking about reality and English. So that's just kind of for fun. You can read that, and we may look at that at the class. Then there's a PowerPoint resource that I think you'll find pretty useful. What it does is it breaks down all of the pieces of a qualitative research, and I'm going to call it pieces of a dissertation, which is going to be the context for our class. And we're going to learn about qualitative research in the context of putting together a dissertation. Now, obviously the dissertation that we're going to talk about in this course is going to be very truncated, and it's also going to be not the official one. But I've built the assignment so that we're building kind of let's call it a faux dissertation, or where each of the assignments builds the way through the pieces of a dissertation while you're learning about qualitative research. So I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. One is the dissertation is kind of the big scary thing about doctoral programs, and also the approach that we're taking might help you think about the information that will help you with your written and oral examinations, which should be kind of a launch into your dissertation. So I'm hopeful that we can kind of build on learning qualitative research in a systematic way that's going to help you both now and help you later in the as you take steps through your doctoral committee. So that is the PowerPoint, which I refer to as fidelity across a qualitative, and you'll see in the PowerPoint how it builds from the beginning, the purpose statements and all of those kind of things through research questions, through a review of literature, to methodology, to analysis, to answering the question of so what, which is really the purpose of the entire dissertation. Then the last piece is a subjectivity statement. It's qualitative research is a little different than quantitative research. As a researcher in qualitative, you are the instrument of analysis. So in other words, when you are analyzing data, say like from an interview, you analyze it from your own personal framework, and to make sure that it is valid and as reliable as possible, you need to know a little bit, quite a lot, about your own self and the lens that you use to view the research data, which is the same that you use to view life. So at some point in this, and I think it's going to be like in the third mini paper that we're going to be talking about, you will need to write a subjectivity statement for yourself. And so for two reasons, I put one subjectivity statement about myself. One is that I'm your teacher of qualitative research. And so you should know where I'm coming from, and you should know a little bit about my background. And the other thing is to give you an example of how to do it. Now, mine is pretty extensive. I think it's like 10 to 15 pages or something like that, some ridiculous thing like that. But it is a subjectivity statement that I've used for other research projects. Yours won't have to be nearly as involved or as detailed as mine. So anyway, that's kind of an overview of the first module, the Introduction to Qualitative Research. And again, we'll go over a lot of this stuff together when we are together on January the 11th. It's this coming Friday, I believe, at 5:30 on the Griffin campus. I believe we're in room 215 on the second floor of the administration building, if I remember the email I got. So anyway, I will see you on Friday, and to the extent that you can in those 2 or 3 days that you have this available to you, dig into this as much as you can. See you on Friday.